Well, that is the scenario that we have. The world is full of weird creatures that will kill everything. It's not even cute little creatures that are just a furry cockroach that actually sings opera, or maybe the monkey that has a very big tail and likes to eat chocolate. No, it's the monstrosities that will kill everybody. Vauclair, what's up? Have you gone over my research? Do you understand what we're up against? Yeah, I've read all the information on your terminals. And he leans forward, intensity burning in his eyes. Your thoughts? Honestly, Doc, I don't know. You say that all of this adds up to something, but I'll be damned if I know what it is. And nor do I. Not exactly, at least. But I can make an educated guess. We are looking at a natural, or if you prefer, paranatural, catastrophe. Something has thrown off the balance between magic and reality. The magical background count of the world is rising, and as the Earth becomes more and more mana-rich, we're seeing increasingly devastating results. Paranatural disasters like the mana rift that consumes Sydney, widespread madness, and most terribly, the appearance of dangerous new paranormal life forms. Predators that couldn't survive in mana-poor environments are flooding into our world, and as the mana level continues to rise, larger and more dangerous things are appearing. In order to solve the problem, we need to find a way to plug the leak. But we have a more immediate concern. The creatures that are invading our world are growing larger and more dangerous at an exponential rate. Our first priority must be finding a way to combat these things. Then we tackle the long-term challenge of staunching the tide of mana that is flowing into the world. Well, these things are magical in nature. Seems to me that we need to find a magical solution. Magic might work in the short term, but as the global background count rises, it will become less and less reliable as a solution. We need a weapon that won't fail us before the job is done. Unfortunately, conventional weapons haven't done much to hurt these creatures. Even the smaller ones have shown an extraordinary resilience to physical damage, and bigger ones that have been popping up are nigh unkillable. There was an amoeboid thing with many tongues terrorizing the skies above Buenos Aires. They tried to use helicopter gunships to shoot it down. They eventually succeeded, but not without destroying half of their own city in the process. Bad business. He lights another cigarette, musing. Maybe a biological control could work? Perhaps a natural enemy could be found to fight these things, or at the very least, to buy us some time. Like dragons? Anything capable of killing one of these things would also be dangerous to us, wouldn't it? Yes, there's that. He stubs out his cigarette and grabs another with a shaking hand. Lighting it, he eagerly sucks in the smoke. What we need is something powerful enough to keep these things at bay, but intelligence enough to be capable to reason. Like a dragon. Yeah. Vauclair stands there for a moment, blinking, and then his frail body begins to tremble. The cigarette drops from his lip and falls to the floor. Saucer-eyed, he covers his mouth with a withered hand. Oh God. We did this. I did this. He leans forward, bracing himself against the computer terminal in front of him. He gulps down air in short, panicked breaths. Hang on, how is this your fault? I don't see it. I wanna make him say it. I wanna see what happens. He doesn't meet your eyes. The dragons, don't you see? The dragons. They must have been keeping these things in check. And I killed them. Vauclair stands there, leaning on his console, his eyes bulging, his teeth grind. Finally, he raises his head to look you in the eye. Killing the dragons, it must have thrown the world out of balance somehow. But how? How was I to know? There were no signs, no indications. There was nothing. What I did was right. Yes, you're right. There was no indication, and there is no indication. You're just drawing the connection. Actually, he's taking the wrong conclusion. The wrong conclusion, or the right conclusion, would be if I hadn't killed the dragons, then the dragons would be able to kill the creatures, maybe. Although very likely they wouldn't, because every time this sort of shit happens in Shadowrun, they don't do anything. So yeah. Either way, the point is, yeah, maybe the dragons would have been able to help out, but in all likelihood, or rather, not in all likelihood, the conclusion that he should be coming to is, I killed the only weapon that we had, and well, of course he didn't know, but he's taking the conclusion that this happened because he killed that only weapon that we had, which might be the case. I mean, the thing is, there's no reason to believe that is the case. It's a neat story, like, it works well enough, but the only reason that we would believe that is the case is because this is a story. This is Shadowrun, Dragonfall. This is the game telling us a story. So, yeah, it being a neat story is actually a reason for us to believe it. But in real life, it's just too convenient for it to be the case. Although it would make some sense. Because it's a neat story. It works. The evidence would argue otherwise. This is me saying it looks like it wasn't right. Let's go with the first one. It looked that way to me too, Doctor. But it wasn't right, was it? He stares down at his trembling hands. I acted without considering all of the variables. Didn't even consider that such variables could exist. I was blind. Yeah, you still don't have a reason to believe it was you who did this, to be fair. He holds his silence for a long time, struggling with himself. Finally, a quiet voice crawls out of him. I was a fool, he says. This isn't your fault, Vauclair. You didn't know that this could happen. You couldn't have known. No, not this precisely. But when I rolled the dice with Panacea, I knew there were risks. I must be prepared to accept the consequences, to own them. And so I do. No, you don't, actually. You're not the one that's gonna die. I mean, you're eventually gonna die, but your life is nothing. Everybody else will own the consequences, not you. But it's mighty of you to be all, I take responsibility, even though you don't, because you can't. Vauclair opens his desk drawer and reaches in with both hands. When he pulls them back out, you see the object that he's holding. A vintage Luger handgun. Yeah, I saw the animation there as well. I didn't know what that was. Gingerly, he grips it in his right hand and raises it to his temple. It was a pleasure working with you, Edie. I'm sorry that I asked you to come all this way for nothing. Now turn away, if you please. Yeah. No, I won't. Don't do it, Vauclair. You saved the world once. You can do it again. Save the world. Funny. He smiles weakly at you, but there are tears pouring from his eyes. I didn't save the world, Edie. I damned it. At least I know that, when I arrive in hell, I'll be in good company. His finger tightens on the trigger. The breath catches in his throat. I'll see you soon, Hermie. He freaking had a loaded weapon with the safety off in his desk drawer. That's not proper gun etiquette. What is this? Seriously, though, that's actually... He didn't... Either way, he killed himself. So, there's two objectives here. One of them is off in the middle of freaking... Do you see? Oh, it's over there. Okay. So, what exactly are we doing here? Why... Well, obviously this one needs to be done. I hope it doesn't cancel the other one. The screen of the console is slick with Vauclair's blood, but it looks like you can unlock the door to the inner lab from here. That's how you do that. So... Ma'am? Is she crouching? I think she is. Bad news. He's dead. Dr. Vauclair is dead. Her eyes are open wide, and her cheeks have flushed red. The tone of her voice is one of utter despair. We're doomed. The world is going to die. Nah, don't give up. We can still turn this around. It doesn't mean that we will, but we can. No, we can't, she says. Tears stream down her cheeks. We're dead. All of us. Well, people should have told you that before. We all die, one way or another. That's not what she means, though. The world is dead. Yeah. Let's find out. Ooh! It's Audrin. Oh, this is where we were before. Where I killed my whole team. Making the right choice that has the wrong consequences. Audrin. Standing by the observation window for Firefinger's chamber, you find a familiar figure. Audrun, in his hardened armor, is every bit as massive as you remember him. A low voice rumbles out of him. He doesn't turn away from the window. This is it. The place where the magic happened. Feels a lot bigger now that the dragon's gone. Hey, Audrun. He nods his head. Edie, that gunshot I heard, was that the doc? Yeah, it was. He raises an armored hand and then turns to you with a smile. You can see what he's holding, a bottle made out of thin, or rather thick, green glass. Well, here's to you, Doc. He raises the bottle to his lips and takes a swig, and then he passes it to you. He gave up. He's not worth drinking to. And also, Audrun is not worth drinking with, although his armor looks pretty sweet from here. Look at that. That's badass. Audrun shrugs and then accepts the bottle. In my experience, everything's worth drinking to. But it's your call. He raises the bottle to his own lips and takes a long drink. When he finishes, he holds the bottle to the light, gazing idly through the glass at the bronze liquor inside. A wistful expression crosses his face. Whatever you think of how he chose to go out, you've got to hand it to the old man. He really did it. He changed the world. Yeah, he did. Not for the better, but he changed things all right. Audrun shrugs his massive shoulders. Better or worse, who the fuck cares? The world was going to hell anyway. The doc sped things up a little, is all. Made life more interesting for you and me. We probably wouldn't have lived enough to see the end if we had, or if he hadn't. Is that what this was about to you? You wanted something like this to happen? Why wouldn't I? His grin widens, and the light plays sickeningly off of his scar tissue. The world's never done shit for me. Everything I am, I had to take for myself. So I say, fuck the world. He closes his eyes and takes another long drink. I'm looking forward to watching it die. Fair enough. Of course, if you prefer, you could always follow the doc's example. Take the coward's way out. He pats a pistol on his hip. You recognize it instantly. It's the same hand cannon that he used to kill Amsel. Guess I couldn't fault you for it. Things are gonna get ugly over the next few years. I'm no coward, and I don't drink with people who kill my friends. Although I also kill my friends, so I basically don't drink. He snorts. You cling to that high horse, pal. It'll do you a lot of good when everything starts falling apart around you. Audrun turns his back on you to stare through the window into Firefinger's pen. Go on hating my guts if it makes you happy. Hatred is good. Keeps the blood pumping. If you grow a pair, go ahead and take a swing at me. See what happens. Actually, you will die, unless you're immune to action point damage, because that's my secret weapon. Or you could let bygones be bygones and enjoy this nice liquor I'm offering you. Until then, I ain't going anywhere, so you take whatever time you need to make up your mind. You stand there for a while, staring at Audrun's armored back, deciding what to do, deciding whether it even matters anymore. It doesn't matter. We know. It's the epilogue. I've chosen all the choices. This is the end. This is actually, more games should do something like this, because you basically get to live the consequences of your end choices. It's lovely. Because I imagine if you choose something different, then you get a very different epilogue, and you get to live the consequences of your own choices in a different way. The silence stretches, but that's all right. Like Audrun said, you've got time. All the time in the world. By the year 2065, that's 10 years in the future, meta-humanity has been reduced to an endangered species. Huddling in sewers, subway, tunnels, and underground bunkers, desperate clusters of survivors fight with one another over dwindling supplies of food and water. They have long since learned to carry out their conflicts in silence. Noise can attract the predators that now dominate the Earth's surface. To draw the attention of a horror is to, capital H, is to invite a hideous death. On the surface, the horrors congregate in roiling swarms. They slither, scuttle, and crawl over the bones of meta-human civilization, hunting in packs and eviscerating anything with a heartbeat. The largest of these monstrosities hang impossibly in the sky above the ruins of the world's great cities, casting shadows that stretch miles across. These godlike leviathans gorge themselves on the residual misery of the long dead. Slowly but surely, they pick the carcass of mankind's reign clean. Hope is a thing of the past. Meta-humanity has reached its end. But the scourge that has replaced it has just begun. And the game has just ended, because we're at the end. That is the ending that I chose. That is a really cool ending, though. It's a shame that it feels very much like non-canonical, but it's the sort of ending that a lot of settings actually have. Well, not as an ending, but as a stage of the setting. It reminds me of Metro. Is it actually, that's the name of the setting? Metro 2033, I believe, is the book. Is it? No, 2032 is the book. And Metro as a whole is basically this situation. So it's like, you know, the remnants of civilization. It's a post-apocalypse, basically. And Warhammer, I believe, Warhammer 40k, not Warhammer Fantasy, because that's a different one. Warhammer 40k also has a particular stage. I think it's like 30,000, the year 30,000, somewhere around there, where humanity basically reached the apex of its glory, and then basically all fell apart. And that's the beginning of the Empire and stuff like that. And it's just, there's those two settings, at least, that I know of. And it just feels that this isn't Shadowrun. Because I'm pretty sure the 6th edition of Shadowrun, that I believe came out right around this game came out. Or maybe a little bit later, because, I don't know, so the 2012 is when the first Shadowrun came out. The Shadowrun Returns. And then this game came out 2 years after? Yes, 2014, and then 2016 is when Hong Kong came out. Yeah, I think it's 2 years apart each. And so I think the 6th edition of the setting itself comes with new lore as well, and it's in the future, so none of this is canon. It's just the results of this particular campaign, which is really cool. I really like that. It's well drawn out. It's not the simple. I remember the ending of Deus Ex Invisible War that has similarly... Well, actually, the original Deus Ex also has similarly widespread consequences to your choices at the end of the game, and it's just a little cutscene. But this one, we really get to feel it. We get to play it out, and it's lovely. I just wish, in this particular ending, I just wish that the fight against our companions was a little bit more long-drawn, a little bit less mechanically oriented, because obviously we died a lot. I think canonically for our Let's Plays, just that our companions killed everything and the dragons didn't die. And Edie died, and so did Vauclair. And Audrun died and all that. But I don't know. I like, that was a moment that could have been a little bit more squeezed out of emotional value, because they really did play the whole invasion of the Cruz Bazaar and the death of Audrun. Sorry, not Audrun, of Paul Amsel. That's the one. They really did play that whole thing very, very well. That's actually a pretty awesome part of the game, and easily the standout aspect. I mean, it's a little bit. This game is a little bit less mission oriented than Hong Kong is. I never finished Shadowrun Returns, but I think Shadowrun. I played it for like 12 hours. I think it's also very mission oriented, but I don't remember exactly, because I played it back in 2012 and I just didn't finish it. And like many games that I didn't finish back then. But now I do, because I do them on camera, and all of my Let's Plays, well, almost all of them, I see to the end. So that's the end of Shadowrun Dragonfall. The epilogue lasted, how long did it? Was it like 4 episodes of epilogue? So it's easily an hour of you just reading dialogue and all that sort of stuff, if you were playing it by yourself. So that's really good. I really like that style of. I really like that. It's a shame that more games don't do that. This style of ending. And admittedly, the Fallout 1 and 2 and other games that take after those games do the whole ending vignettes where you get to read about the choices that you made and the consequences of the choices that you made all throughout the game. But obviously in a game like this, where it's a little bit less choice oriented in regards to the missions that are a little bit more focused, a little bit more linear, it doesn't make sense for there to be vignettes, especially when you kill them all. So the vignettes would be, Paul Amsel is dead, so is Glory, so is Iger, so is Dietrich, Max as well, and the goodest boy as well. What is his name? Dante? Yeah, also dead. And so everybody else, and so is everybody else after that, and just terrible things happened. I still, like, obviously the consequence of our choice is that the world went to shit. But, like, admittedly, like, the only reason why that is because this is a story. In reality, if this was real, I would need to see concrete evidence that the reason why the background count went up is because the dragons died. I would have to see that. And oh, that's right. That's another reason why this doesn't feel like canon, is because obviously you killed all the dragons, and killing all the dragons is absolutely not in favor of what Shadowrun is all about. You need to have dragons. That's very important for the storytelling and all this sort of stuff. So killing a major part of the series is just something that it wouldn't happen. So it's just the game taking its own. I have hiccups. I'm sorry. The game taking its own license to give us an ending that's worthwhile, and I really enjoyed it. But I hope, well, that's it. So I hope you enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time when I play Shadowrun Returns, or in other Let's Plays, because I do a lot of Let's Plays. But I'll eventually do Shadowrun Returns. I'm doing them in the wrong order, though. I started with Hong Kong, and then I'm doing Shadowrun Dragonfall now, finishing it. And so, yeah, by the time you're watching this, if you haven't seen Hong Kong, I'm very sorry, because it's an old Let's Play, and my Let's Playing chops are not as good as they are right now. Or at least they're worse than they are right now. I say as good, but anyway. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're watching this until the end, then I can only assume that you forgive my lack of real talent here. But yeah, so because you can just watch a little bit of the first episode and be like, I don't want to watch this guy play this game, but you obviously didn't. So thank you so much for that once again, as always, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.